Hi, and welcome to Historical Influence. Imagine a world where a single book costs as much as a house. A world where a library containing 300 manuscripts is considered the largest in Europe. This was the reality of the Middle Ages. Before the mid-15th century, knowledge was trapped. It was chained to the desks of scribes and monks who engaged in the agonizingly slow process of copying text by hand. A scribe might produce only 1 or 2 pages a day. Because of this sloth-like pace, books were rare, prohibitively expensive, and prone to human error with every new copy made. In this era, science was a solitary pursuit, and the great minds of the time were isolated by geography and language. If a scholar made a discovery, sharing it was a logistical nightmare. It is important to note that the idea of printing was not entirely new to humanity. Woodblock printing had existed in China since the 9th century, and Korean artisans were printing with movable metal type a century before Europe. However, these innovations had not triggered a global information revolution, partly due to the complexity of Asian character systems compared to the relatively concise Latin alphabet. In Europe, the silence of the Dark Ages was deafening. The average person lived and died without ever owning a book or reading a newspaper. But in the German city of Mainz, a goldsmith was tinkering with a machine that would soon shatter this silence forever.
Around 1436, Johannes Gutenberg began developing a system that would unlock the modern age. While he didn't invent the concept of the press itself, having adapted the screw-type presses used for squeezing wine grapes or olives, his genius lay in the synthesis of technologies. Gutenberg was a goldsmith and a metallurgist. He utilized this expertise to create a unique alloy of lead, tin, and antimony. This metal could be melted at low temperatures to cast durable, precise letters or movable type that could be rearranged and reused infinitely. He also developed a new oil-based ink that would stick to metal, unlike the water-based inks used for woodblocks. But innovation required capital. In 1448 and 1450, Gutenberg borrowed substantial sums, 800 guilders at a time, from a wealthy merchant named Johann Fust to finance his workshop. By the early 1450s, the machine was running. Gutenberg's masterpiece was the 42-line Bible. It was a marvel of aesthetic and technical quality, mimicking the look of handwritten manuscripts with a Gothic texture font known as blackletter. He printed around 180 copies. In an age of scribes, producing this many Bibles in just 3 years was a miraculous speed. Yet the revolution had a personal cost. Gutenberg was unable to pay his debts. In 1455, he was sued by Fust, lost his printing equipment, and eventually died penniless. He never saw the full scope of what he had unleashed. As historian Ada Palmer notes, Gutenberg printed the Bibles, but there were hardly enough people in his town who could even read Latin. The invention needed a network to survive.
When Gutenberg's creditors seized his equipment, the technology did not disappear. It spread. German printers fled to other cities, eventually reaching Venice, the shipping hub of the Mediterranean. It was here that the printing press found its true engine: distribution. A printer in Venice could sell books to ship captains leaving port, creating the first mass distribution mechanism for information. Suddenly, a book that once cost a fortune dropped in price to the equivalent of a school teacher's monthly salary. The statistics are staggering. Between the years 500 and 1450, only about 50,000 books had been produced in all of Europe. In the first 50 years after Gutenberg's invention, that number skyrocketed to 8 million. This explosion wasn't just about volume, it changed the very language we speak. In England, the first printer, William Caxton, helped standardize the English language. Before print, dialects varied wildly. Printers had to make choices, adding a silent B to words like thumb or crumb to match foreign spelling conventions, or cementing the spelling of ghost with an H because of Flemish typesetters. News began to travel faster than ever before. Venice became a news hub, selling 4-page pamphlets to sailors. When these ships arrived in distant ports, the news was copied and read aloud in local pubs. As historian Ada Palmer observes, this radically changed the consumption of news, making it normal to check the news every single day. The monopoly on knowledge was broken. What had been a project to educate a wealthy elite became a project to put a library in every medium-sized town.
As the 16th century dawned, the printing press became a weapon. In 1517, Martin Luther reportedly nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg. In previous centuries, the church would have easily silenced such a heretic by burning his few handwritten manuscripts. But the printing press changed the game. Luther's words were printed and spread across Europe in just 17 days. He became the world's first best-selling author. Between 1518 and 1525, Luther's writings accounted for a third of all books sold in Germany. He famously declared, "Printing is the ultimate gift of God and the greatest one." The press allowed the Protestant Reformation to bypass the church hierarchy and speak directly to the people. The revolution wasn't just religious, it was scientific. English philosopher Francis Bacon listed the printing press, along with gunpowder and the compass, as the 3 inventions that forever changed the world. For science, the press offered something arguably more important than speed: accuracy. Before print, data tables were often copied with errors. Now, astronomers like Nicholas Copernicus could rely on identical, mass-produced tables of planetary movements to formulate his sun-centric model of the universe. Scientists could finally trust their data, allowing humanity to leap forward. By the 18th century, the press was fueling political revolutions. The democratization of knowledge during the Enlightenment fostered public opinion as a new political force. In the American colonies, Thomas Paine's pamphlet Common Sense sold more copies than the entire population of the colonies at the time, proving that even the illiterate were drawn into the revolutionary fervor through public readings. Tyrants trembled. As French writer Louis-Sébastien Mercier wrote, printing was the gift from heaven that would make tyrants of all kinds tremble before the universal cry of the people. Censorship became nearly impossible. The more a book was banned, the more people wanted to read it.
The legacy of Gutenberg's press is the foundation of our modern world. It standardized our languages, facilitated the scientific method, and made universal education possible. By 1800, literacy in Germany had risen from a mere 2% to 50%. However, it also introduced challenges that resonate today. The printing press was perhaps the first time workers feared machines would steal their jobs, as scribes found their skills obsolete. Today, we are living through a new structural transformation of the public sphere, as noted by philosopher Jürgen Habermas. Just as the printing press disrupted the medieval order, digital media and social networks are disrupting ours. The comparison is striking. The printing press allowed fringe voices and radical ideas to bypass gatekeepers, leading to chaos and reformation. Similarly, the digital age has turned every user into a potential author, bypassing traditional journalists. We see the rise of fake news and the fragmentation of public discourse into echo chambers, mirroring the propaganda wars of the Reformation.
Gutenberg's invention took centuries to fully mature, from the first Bible to universal literacy. We are only at the beginning of our digital transition. Yet, the core lesson remains. The technology of communication dictates the structure of society. Whether through lead type or fiber optics, the ability to share information remains the most powerful tool in human history. As we look back at the machine that pulled Europe out of the Middle Ages, we must ask, where will our new machines take us next?
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that shaped our world.